There's Joe Biden sniffing my hair. Oh no, what's wrong with this picture? Hey everybody, it's Paris Prokopis here. Welcome to the Paris Prokopis Show, and we're going to have a fun show today. I hope I'm not on mute right now. There might be a thing or two going on. I don't know. Get some people that are getting drunk. I've got Hilario on. And let me change my background because I don't want to look at Joe Biden the whole time. Although he might forget that he was sniffing my hair. So at any rate, well, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some of the goings on, like with the Supreme Court. What a big deal it is today. And of course, the Democrats are freaking out. They're threatening all kinds of stuff. And which isn't really a surprise at all, because we knew they would freak out. So, because that's what they do. That's just what they do. And tonight I'm going to have a special guest on. Rick Braun is going to join me. He's a former candidate for state assembly a couple years ago. And then he's also a libertarian. So we're going to get a little bit of different perspective here. Or it might be the same perspective. I don't know, but we'll talk a little bit about that. He's a great guy. And hey, Jim, how's it going? Did he call me George? Yeah, they're asking if Joe Biden called me George. That was awesome. I love it. Okay, Dave Miller from California. I could sell it better. All right. So anyway, I'm going to bring Rick Braun on here. Let's welcome Rick Braun to the show. Oh, we'll have some clapping. Yay. Okay, maybe not. Okay, so how's it going, Rick?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well. So kind of I don't know. Anything going on today? Not much of a news day.
I don't think there's any breaking news at all today. Kind of a slow news day, I think.
So Wisconsin, had their, they failed to get the required signatures for the recall.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean they can't try again, but at this point, I have an idea of where they got, but I'm not going to publicly say it because someone asked me to keep it quiet. Okay. So some of that, but it was a decent turnout. I'll leave it at that. But we'll get to the recall in a little bit because I know you and I have some possibly differing views on it, or maybe not. So, but in fact, we'll talk about that now. We'll get on that. Okay. I love it. So you're yourself about libertarian, but you're also, you vote for Republicans sometimes, right?
Yeah. If you ever see those like political quizzes that it's not a left right, it's more of a four grid kind of thing. And,
yeah.
The upper right is conservative and the bottom right is libertarian. I'm somewhere right on that borderline right there whenever I take those quizzes. So there's going to be times where I have libertarian views, and there's going to be times where I do have some more conservative views as well.
Oh, is that funny? I usually end up in about the same point, right on that line, just a little bit above the line.
See, I'm below. I'm more on the libertarian side for sure.
More on the libertarian side.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could see certain things being legalized and stuff like that if it's done with, common sense. More, I like the idea of getting out of some of these wars, this perpetual going into war and stuff like that. So that's kind of my libertarian side. And it's like, I don't care who wants to marry who. Right. I don't think the government should be in the marriage business at all.
That's exactly my thing. Is it's not something that's the government's business. It's between two people, and if you're religious, it's between you, your spouse, and God, and the state should have anything to do with it.
Right, exactly. And I think that the whole reason the government was even in marriage was from years ago with the Jim Crow laws. They wanted to prevent blacks and whites from intermarrying or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good starting to getting involved in that, and there's still a lot of very extreme circumstances that we're not. I mean, there's no laws in the country that, as far as I'm aware, that are not allowing two races to intermarry, but just silly things that the government thinks they're doing good by the people, and it's really just kind of a waste of everybody's time. I think the state of Illinois, they do a blood test to make sure you're not too closely related. as if that's going to stop people from being together in the first place. But it's just bizarre. And on top of that, it's a waste of taxpayers' money.
So when they get divorced, they're still cousins? What? I don't know.
Well, you're not. Yeah, if they allowed you to get married, but yeah,
That's crazy. So be that as it may. Now I've been quite vocal that I was against doing the recall, mainly at this time. I thought our priorities were kind of mixed. They say, oh, we can focus on more than one thing, but reality is a lot of the electorate can't.
That's true. And I was opposed to it more so because as much as I don't like what his policies are and what he's doing, I don't think there was enough to remove him from office successfully. I mean, it's just elections have consequences. Yeah, you don't like who you voted in. Well, yeah, that's why we do it every 4 years. You don't get a do-over just because you realize you made a mistake.
Wow, we're actually on the same side on this. I thought for some reason you were a big supporter of it.
No,
maybe not someone else I was talking to.
Not so much. No, I think as much. I think a lot of what he's doing is wrong, and especially with the orders in the name of public health, as well intentioned as he may be, he's wrong. Legally he's wrong. But that doesn't mean we get to recall him. There's other means in place to make that happen.
Yeah, and my whole contention was I just look back at history. Look what it did to the Democrat Party when they recalled Walker, and that was a big thing. I think my biggest motivation, I supported Walker. I supported Act 10 at the time. Now it turns out to be mostly ineffective because we're spending just as much money as we were then. Right. But it was the whole principle of the thing. It's like, no, there was no crime committed. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the governor can't be an idiot.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but I had my concerns. It was kind of weird when it came out that somebody submitted papers to do a recall. I'm like, oh my God. And I wrote an article on this, I don't know, back in March, I think, that I thought the recall was a bad idea. Guys, it'll take our eyes off the prize. We need to focus on Donald Trump at that point. And, because I was concerned with throwing too many things, because initially I thought they were going to try to get it in for the November election. That would have screwed everything up. But I just looked at it. I looked up the woman who was doing it. And usually if I could look someone up, and if we're somewhat on the same side on things, even though we're not like Facebook friends, I might have like 10, 12 friends in common with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes 70, 80 or whatever. And I had none with this person at all.
Interesting.
And one of the other people running it as well. We had no friends in common. This was at the time when they first submitted the paperwork, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I started to question things, but I still just came out against it because I just thought it was, they have a right to do it. Anybody can raise a recall at any point. I could raise a recall because Rick Braun doesn't like Tony Evers,
right? But
things have to be tempered with common sense, I guess.
Yeah. I just don't think it was a good enough. I don't even remember the reasons now entirely, but I just don't think it was enough. I mean, it's a good reason to vote him out, and after 4 years, and certainly it's a good reason to start voting out some of his colleagues in the legislature now. If you don't like what he's doing, give him less of a support group. But yeah, as far as recalls go, unless there's something really, really bad, I don't think it's worth the effort. And as you saw with Scott Walker's, it doesn't even have the desired effect. It tends to have the opposite effect, at least in this state.
Oh yeah, my aunt and uncle did not vote for Tom Barrett in the recall, and they hate Scott Walker and everything he stood for. They just said it's like, I'll vote his ass out in 2014 when I'm supposed to, and that was their attitude. And I think they estimate Scott Walker probably got about 50,000 votes based on that. There were Democrats who just didn't agree with the recall.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not up on my memory is not the greatest on that, but I do believe he fared better in the recall election than he did in his first election.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he got almost 56%. It was almost 55%, but he did very well. And in Wisconsin, that's basically a mandate.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question about it, because usually Wisconsin is pretty much 51-49,
Right.
one way or another.
Mhm.
So now you served in the military, right?
Correct. I did.
Yeah.
I did 8
What
years in the
branch?
United States Marine Corps infantry.
Marine Corps.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So yeah, we talked about guns. We have the same pistols too.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. Very similar. Slightly different models. Yeah.
Different models, but hey, the SIG P226. Although
Yes.
heck, that's a big gun to carry, man. I got some great holsters for it and stuff like that finally, and that's
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
at any rate, so you did 8 years in the Marines, and you made the decision to run for a state assembly a few years ago
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
as a libertarian.
As a libertarian. So a little background. As far as the Marine Corps, September 11th happened when I was a freshman in college, my first semester. So, and I was, I did a about face with my life. I was actually going to music school, had a, and had like a half my scholarship, Semper Fi Educato, paid for, and I saw that happen. I was like, well, I can't spend my life like this. I have to do something that's I have to get involved. I have to be a part of this. And so that's when as a kid, I wanted to be a Marine. I finished my semester, got in shape, and joined the Marine Corps, and I did that, and got out and saw the world, and really that's what shaped my world views. And I came home, and I wanted to keep doing that. And a lot of Marines become police officers and get involved in law and everything else, trying to do good in their communities. When I was seeing what the laws were, I also thought, well, everybody's doing that, but nobody's making sure the laws are good. Like, not as many of us are making sure that we have good laws to be enforced. And that's when I thought I got to get on the other side of that. And that's what made me want to run for state assembly.
Ah.
Yeah.
What made you make the choice to run as a libertarian?
Well, I mean, it was a long time voting as a Republican, and I just saw it was always as getting more and more as Democrat light or that sort of thing, where they talked about it, they talked a good game, but when it came to getting put into practice, it just wasn't there. They talked about cutting spending, you just don't see it happening enough. And my big thing is that good laws as far as being able to live your life and not being interfered with by the government or by being protected by other people, but also just not getting taxed to death, and everything is a tax. And I just didn't see the Republicans doing enough to make that happen. I mean, that was their platform. The platform certainly is, and we all agree on that. But it seemed to me, when put into practice, there was nobody holding their feet to the fire, and that's where I saw that opportunity. Is that no, we really do need to talk about real fiscal responsibility, and that's what drew me to running as a libertarian. Is I wanted to run as a more fiscally conservative candidate than what the Republicans had been putting out, and I didn't think I was going to be able to do that running in a Republican primary. None of the people would be listening.
Right. And that happens. You get some establishment people and stuff like that. Now President Trump came into the mix and threw everything up in the tizzy. So, he showed that basically any individual can run for office and win if they push hard enough. Obviously, he's an anomaly because he's pretty much larger than life, regardless of the fact that he's a billionaire. But he's kind of like a star power playboy kind of guy and all that stuff. Queens of New York, loudmouth. Nobody would have ever expected that. I keep hearing the term, well, he's not presidential. I was like, well, because he's president, by definition, it's presidential. Hello.
Yeah, so you can get you got to highlight, almost every president along the way that's had good moments of not being very presidential at all as well. He was definitely much less concerned about it than that.
Oh, I'm hearing an echo. Do you have the volume up pretty loud on your computer?
No, let me turn it down though.
Yeah, just see. Can you still hear me?
Hang on. I can hear you now.
Okay. I sound it messes with the voices in my head. So thank you, Jacqueline, for pointing that out. My attention pointing it out to there. So what do you do? What does Rick do? What do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? I'm in warehousing logistics right now. Work for a company that handles radon mitigation systems. Not very interesting stuff, but it's more about building a business and making it grow and making it profitable is really where my what I really do for a living, as far as the what's my specialty is come into a place and work at process improvement and things like that, and just making things run better and more efficiently.
And
So not very interesting. I'm not in politics full time. It's still a part-time thing. Aspirations for full time eventually.
we could have used you in politics again to run for something, and I think you should, or you can affect change by getting involved with people. Because I'm in the same vein. I'm getting tired of everybody campaigning on the issue because they're so focused on the issue of whatever they're campaigning on, but they never seem to fix the issue, basically, so they can campaign on it again.
Yeah, that happens.
And that happens to both parties.
Yep, absolutely. And I do intend to, and I was eyeing up running again for the same seat this year. Several people had asked me. Hang on, I'm trying to read what Ed's saying here.
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be interesting. There's positives and negatives that require military service for that to run for public office. There's good reasons for it, and there's also ways that could go very wrong as far as playing games and having people in our military who are just there to check a box, and that's something I've always been concerned about as well. I lost my train of thought there after I was reading
train of thoughts, talking about running for office potentially again, and
yeah. So afterwards, and I ran as libertarian, and I really put in a max effort, and I got a decent percentage in a very contested race, and I had been asked by several people in the Republican Party if gauge my interest, especially since my issues were just being, especially economics and fiscal responsibility, or one of my really things I was trying to hammer home. And they asked me to run as a Republican, and I was eyeing that up as a potential thing. But this year, just it didn't work out. It was not in the cards for me, and I'm just kind of gonna. He pulled a Joe Biden.
Oh, when you forgot your thing,
I got distracted by an interesting comment, started got off the subject, and I forgot what we were originally talking about.
Squirrel.
Yeah, I do plan to run again. I just don't know for what. But I'm hoping 2022, maybe 2024. There's something that I find a spot that I think is a viable race for me.
Okay. Well, and we definitely need that, especially going back to the recall. I mean, this recall effort and stuff like that. Instead of putting your effort into something like that, the best way to get someone out of office is to beat them. Not just running for governor, but running for, state assembly or state senate, even local alderman. We saw the impact how one rogue alderman in Wauwatosa made a huge negative impact, and I do have to say I helped get her to quit.
You did?
But, yeah.
Nice.
I wrote an article in Conservative Digest, and I guess it got a lot of traction. Thank you, Mark Belling. He
nice.
read my whole article on the air.
Nice.
It's like, it was cool. So, but here's an interesting. Why do you think the stories all said the recall had the signatures, and then all of a sudden they didn't a couple days later? Apparently, I don't. It's going to be interesting why they didn't have the signatures. They were BSing the whole time. I'm wondering if it was kind of a way. Oh, we've got the signatures to get people more riled up and more excited, so they would sign. Trying to do some public relations. I don't know. It's definitely a good question.
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer to that. I mean, there's also a possibility of redundant signatures too that boosted up the numbers.
Oh, I'm curious. Oh, Jacqueline is saying that libertarians don't have support or backing from the military because the party tends to be against war. Which is interesting because you're a vet. That's kind of interesting. How do you answer that?
There's it's a basic applying a basic understanding of what libertarian philosophy is, and being a vet and being in war up front firsthand. It's not something you want to be like, yeah, let's do it again. That's something you should it's
What a weekend! Yeah.
yeah, it's not the attitude you have being a veteran. So they're anti-war, and not in the sense that no war whatsoever, but it's more like the phrase often thrown around is non-interventionist. So we're not going to see like as a libertarian philosophy, as you see two factions going to war with each other, we're not going to jump in the middle of it and pick a side. Is where our U.S. foreign policy would kind of, if that makes a lot of sense to you.
Yeah. Well, it does make a sense to some extent, but then there's also, the other school of thought. Is there ever a time where you think we should intervene?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. There are times. And this is another part where I tend to break with the more libertarian friends of mine, where I do think there was times where we did have to get in there, but our U.S. policy tends to overuse our military force as a diplomatic tool than it should. So, for example, getting involved in Libya, we shouldn't have been there at all in 2012. That was a disaster.
Oh, amen to that.
Yeah. But let's look at the Gulf War in 1991. I mean, one foreign country invaded another. Yeah, you can help push that invader back. That certainly makes sense. I can understand why we went to war in Afghanistan in the first place, but I don't see why we're still there now. We need to start reeling back in. It just seems like is what happened in countries like that is we've gotten mission creep is the military term for that. We're there now, and they keep coming up with more and more reasons to be there, finding more and more problems that they're trying to solve, when it's really not something that is really any of our benefiting our country.
Well, and I think it's difficult trying to push democracy into a society that's never had it.
No,
I mean, you look at our country. When our country first started, I mean, there was massive turmoil the first couple decades of our country because we were just coming into this society. They fled the monarchy, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're still trying to work it out, and it took decades. I mean, their original version of the U.S. government was nothing like it is now. They completely chucked it and started all over again a few years later. So it had to go through several evolutions before it arrived at what our Constitution is now and our structure of government is now. And you can't really just force that on another culture. That's just not going to work. I mean, you can't force freedom on them and force constitutional government or representative republics by force. It's just not going to work.
Yep. Oh, you're kind of losing your signal a little bit. Are you in a bad pocket? Oh, that's why. Never mind. I gotta connect to. Here, there I am. Okay, I'm back.
Right. Okay.
So that was a quick absence. Did you guys miss me? Tell me in the comments if you missed me. So no, but I agree with a lot of that philosophy for the most part. Obviously, I think there's times when we have to get in. Everybody argues, okay, World War II, we had to push back tyranny, that kind of thing. But very much, I think the libertarians are very constitutional as well, like very strict interpretation of the Constitution. Would you say that's accurate?
Depends on which libertarian you ask. Some of them, I'm serious. I mean, we can't always agree on everything, but that's kind of one of the other kind of difficult things from outside looking in to understand, is that you can have a different philosophy and still be a libertarian on something. So some of them actually think that the Constitution goes too far in limiting your freedoms, believe it or not. I don't agree with that. So what I would be able to speak to what my philosophy is, and yeah, I think that most people that I got into discussions with libertarianism and the libertarians that I know, that they would agree that it's important. It's important to have some form of written law. The Constitution to basically spell out what the limits are for the government, because they'll always have. If you don't spell it out for the government, they're always going to try and expand on their powers.
Okay, well, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Do you think Do you think that's what Tony Evers did?
I don't think Tony Evers had anything to do with what he thought was constitutional or not. As far as the mandates and his health mandates you're talking about,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that he's? I guess I might have to ask you to kind of expand on the question to really get what you're looking for. Because do I think he violated the Constitution? Yes. Do I think that was
beyond
wrong?
the 60 days, that type of thing?
Yeah, there's reasons to have that sort of thing, because that's why I believe we need to have a constitution to limit the powers of government. That Tony Evers is actually a good example of, he's doing he thinks he's doing the right thing, but the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's always good intentions, but look at all the problems in this country that were created by good intentions.
Exactly. That's exactly why, even if you think it's for the greater good or whatever, you still, that's the reason why we have elections and we have, a representative republic. Is you don't get one guy going, I think I know what's best for the country, and I know what's best for the state, I'm just going to do it on my own.
Okay.
One that nobody's always got the best of intentions, or you set a precedent that the next guy is going to abuse, or frankly, just I don't think most individuals are just that smart to make a decision for millions of other people.
Okay. Well, I have to ask, the elephant in the room, so to speak. Are you supporting Donald Trump for re-election?
I'm going to abstain from that question.
You're going to abstain?
Yes.
So are you having, what would be some issues that you have with him compared to Joe Biden?
Well, let's just set the record straight. I am absolutely not voting for Joe Biden.
Okay.
There's not a prayer of that happening. There is a third candidate. There is a libertarian candidate on the ballot. I didn't vote for Trump last time. He still won. I'm having a hard time believing that my vote is that vital to him this time around. I think there's a lot more enthusiasm for him this time than there was in 2016. I'll give you that.
So, now, what do you think of? Obviously, today we had kind of a historic day with Amy Coney Barrett getting put on the Supreme Court. Are you happy with his judicial picks?
Yes.
Yes.
I was in grad school for political science when he had his first two picks, and I was actually writing about them. I always thought they were very good picks for the Supreme Court. And I've been a very busy man last few weeks, but I've only been getting small clips here and there of Amy Coney Barrett. But what I can say from her, I think she's got the right philosophy, and I'm impressed with her intelligence and her abilities and her instant recall of court cases and everything like that she had in her Senate hearings.
Yeah, and she's got really pretty blue eyes too. But anyway, but it's are you, I mean, what would it take for you to say, yeah, I better vote for Donald Trump?
That's a tough question. I mean, it's really going to have to be, it goes back to especially with the fiscal responsibility stuff. And, he's done a lot of good things. He's done a lot of deregulation, but at the same time, I'd like to see a Republican president that actually lowers the debt, and that hasn't happened yet either. And there's some extenuating circumstances. You have to play my own devil's advocate. Yeah, with the shutdown, there a lot of that extra spending this time around. The deficit spending was to go out to payments to individuals so they could keep themselves afloat while the government decided to shut everything down. But my response to that was a better answer. Probably would have been to never shut everything down in the first place.
Oh yeah, but I think the governors were given an inch and they took a mile in a lot of cases, so that wasn't necessarily. I do have to say I'm quite happy with President Trump, the way he handled some of that. It's like, we've got the 10th Amendment. You guys have to figure it out. The same thing with whether or not he was going to intervene in some of the violent situations and stuff like that. And I thought that was great. To me, that was, I think something like that would be appealing to libertarians. I think the fact that he exercised restraint while bombers were in the air and he pulled the bombers back when we were going to bomb Iran because he said it didn't make sense. They basically knocked out a piece of equipment. It doesn't make sense to go out and kill a bunch of people.
No, it doesn't. And on that front, he's actually been, much better president as far as I don't like to use the phrase anti-war, but he pretends to choose diplomatic means over military force to get his meet his goals. And
Yep.
so that I do
Go ahead,
appreciate.
Brenda.
He even brought up another one in the debate where, I mean, during the Obama administration, there was always tensions with North Korea, and now 4 years after Trump, we don't really hear about it much anymore. There really isn't as much as it could just be that the news decided not to cover it as much, and with everything that you try to learn about and stay informed on it, just slipping through the cracks. But I mean, that was supposed to be the next big thing. We were going to go, it was going to get heated in Korea again, and didn't happen. They warned of war with Iran forever, and that hasn't happened yet either. There's been no new conflicts under his administration. So I mean, granted that he hasn't ended any as much either, but he's not started any, which is a break with precedent for many recent presidents.
He's drawn down a lot,
Yes.
like in Afghanistan and stuff like that. And I think I'm a big fan of drawing down versus, okay, let's just pick up and go. Because it gives you a chance to transition from one to the other, because otherwise you leave the country in shambles. I mean, what was the person who did in Iraq? All of a sudden we get out of there like that. Then all of a sudden you've got the ISIS and Libya falls, all this stuff happening all at once because we left the void.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely a power vacuum and it was between Libya and a lot of the weapons from the Gaddafi regime ended up over in ISIS hands. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah.
By taking out Libya, that helped fund ISIS, and that made things doubly worse. And so I would agree that instant withdrawal is also a terrible idea. You need to draw down and incrementally, but and that is happening. That is happening. I can't say he hasn't been doing that. But there's still, there's a long ways to go still as far as that.
Yeah, of course. And as far as the fiscal responsibility, he's only one man. I guarantee you that if the Republicans, the Paul Ryan Republicans, had given him a bill with a bunch of spending cuts, he would have signed it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he's not necessarily the barrier. Yeah, he could drive it. Now, but I'm also a proponent of infrastructure. Fixing the infrastructure. I've been talking about the power grid for 2 decades at least. We're one EMP strike away from being in total chaos.
Mm-hmm.
If our power grid gets hit, I mean, Puerto Rico a couple of years ago with the hurricane, that's a microcosm of what the United States will be if our power goes out.
I believe it.
We're vulnerable. And those are things, the Republicans will say it's going to cost too much. The Democrats are going to say, no, we need to use money for welfare or whatever in between. But it's like sometimes there's certain things you have to do.
Right.
And that's one of those things. But I just say, I look back, the Libertarian vote, I think it was around 3% in 2016.
I think that's right.
Yep. So had there not been a Green Party candidate, I think that Hillary could have won some of those close elections. And I think this time around, I think the stakes are higher based on what the Democrats have done the last 2 years with their power. And that's what scares me. I can't justify, although I'm a Trump supporter, I'm trying to speak, if I were somebody thinking of not voting or, whatever, I can't justify rewarding the Democrats for what they pulled in the past 2 years with their sham of an impeachment trial and all this garbage that they've been doing. And now we find out what they did in 2016 too. That didn't seem kosher, but who knows? I don't know what your thoughts are on all that.
Well, I think your basic premise is that, a vote for a third party is a vote for your opposition and your major party, and I just don't think that's necessarily true. That a vote for third party is a vote for a third party. It's we hear that an awful lot, but it still does send a message that you're not what we want, and this is we can argue the lesser of two evils, and if we really wanted to get into those arguments, I think that we really need to start looking at things like ranked choice voting, where you can pick your number one and then your number two, and then the simple majority, maybe it's not their first pick, but between your first and second pick, that's who wins the election. And maybe that's a better way of going about it. I don't know if you're familiar with ranked choice voting at all. Are you, Paris?
I've heard of it a little bit. Oddly enough, one of my daughters is a fan of that. and
yeah, so,
I mean,
so you could. you could say like the libertarian, Joe Jorgens is my number one, but let's say Donald Trump's my number two. Well, Joe Jorgens is not going to get a simple majority on the first ballot, so then that gets knocked off, and so the second choice becomes my choice, and then whoever that gets the majority. It's a little bit complicated, but it does allow for people to get a break away from that fear of a vote for this person is really a vote for that person. I just don't think it's true.
Then why not just have a runoff election at the end?
Well, you're talking about multiple parties where like a primary would be a little bit different. And it gives you a choice for voting for multiple people and putting them in order. So if everybody votes all at once, supposed to then have people having to come back to the polls again. You're doing it all in one shot.
Well, it is interesting. It is interesting. And I do, and I'm someone, full disclosure, I voted for Ross Perot in 1992.
Okay.
I see. I have a rebel streak myself. And George H.W. Bush pissed me off.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't come. I mean, he got what 30% or something. It was enough to make an impact.
Yeah, in a three-way run, you only need 34%.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough to offset it. And Bill Clinton won. And actually, then what the Republicans put up Bob Dole. I think, and that's the whole thing. That's what I really like about Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Because it was Jeb Bush's turn, so yeah. I'm so sick of whose turn it is. We got Bob Dole because it was his turn. Screw that. I voted for Bill Clinton. I was mad. It's like, let's stick with the devil I know, and at that point, we had him contained because we had a Republican legislature. So it didn't matter.
Right.
And then, obviously John McCain. So I held my nose and voted for John McCain because I saw the writing on the wall with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And then I voted for Romney because I wanted to get Obama out of there. Mm-hmm. But then it's kind of interesting. I don't know what kind of President Romney would have been, but judging from the way he's acting now, I think we have an idea. It would have been more of the same.
Yeah.
And there's an argument that, we've got Democrat light. So what's the difference? But I think right now, we're at a point where we are literally fighting for the heart and soul of our nation. I mean, it's like these people are blatantly anti-American heritage and stuff like that. Out of the blue, it used to be the Democrats win, fine, we'll regroup, we'll get them in 4 years. Now, if they win, we're talking major loss of potential loss of rights.
No, I'm with you on that. And just to kind of back what you were saying, as far as it's your turn thing, I really don't like that part of the political game either. And in the presidential primaries in 2016, I did vote for Trump for that very reason, that he was bucking the system, and I really wanted to destroy those trends as well. At least what little you can do with one single vote.
Yeah, that was the appeal for me too. I agree. That's like I started seeing what the party was trying to do, and I was like, that's not right. It's up to us. The party bosses can't determine, because we would have had Jeb Bush. I guarantee it would have been Jeb Bush, and I won't support another Bush at this point. First of all, I don't trust them. But second of all, I don't like the idea of an aristocracy in this country, kind of a ruling family, ruling class.
Absolutely.
And the same thing, people are saying, oh, I would love an Eric Trump run or Ivanka Trump run. It's like, sorry, nope, I'm not going to have that type. I don't want a royal family. And plus, Kristi Noem from South Dakota is very appealing.
Is that the governor? I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's the governor. I like her. I like Nikki Haley, but it's like my bigger concern, even after Trump win or lose in 4 years, if we're lucky, if Biden wins, maybe we'll still have elections. I don't know, but okay, I'm embellishing a little bit, but who knows? Because I feel like we're living in 1984 right now. But after Trump is gone, after Trump wins, which I think he has a good chance of winning, I think it's a positive chance.
You think? Oh, you know what? I think Trump's going to win. I don't. I think just looking at I've been following the polls daily, seeing how they're going. I think he's going to take Wisconsin. One of the latest polls shows him as tied, and he was down by 6, 7, 8 points against Clinton in 2016. I think he's gonna pull it out. I think there's a lot more enthusiasm this time.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people who are never Trumpers, a lot of people who like myself, that in 2016, and honestly, 2016, I also thought he was a Manchurian candidate. After reading that he used to be a Democrat and he's reform, it just seemed like he's the whichever way the wind's blowing, and who knows, maybe he's friends with the Clintons. Is this a sham election? I really had a lot of questions. There's all those pictures of them back in the day. Is he a real legit candidate? And so I had my reservations about him back then. I know a lot of people did as well, but I think after 4 years, and he has followed through with a lot of what he said he was going to do, that I think he's actually won some people back, and he'll probably do better this time around than he has in the past.
So why hasn't he earned your vote? I'm going to hold your feet to it. No, and I respect you, man. I get where you're coming from. Let me
put it this way:
too big.
Yeah, when I get it, and I know, and that's what I could counter that with. Then why are we sacrificing on our ideals here just to get the lesser of two evils? I think we can go round and round in circles on that one for hours and hours and hours, but nobody would want to watch us do that.
Yeah, and I get what good are principles if you accomplish nothing, and that's my.
And so you get that balance. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That people voting with their conscience, and if you think that it's that sacrifice is necessary, then to make sure that somebody really bad doesn't get in office, that's absolutely your right to vote that way. But just getting back to why I ran as libertarian, there was a moment that there was actually 4 candidates in the race at the time, and it was a partisan race, and there's a Republican, a Democrat, myself, and then an independent. And in this debate, they were talking about education, because in 2018 in Wisconsin, education was the hot button issue. And I just saw too much spending. I did a lot of my homework I'm going to talk about how we're just totally wasting money on public schools. It's not going to the kids. It's going to the administrators. It's going to the, buying, upgrading the building, buying stuff, iPads and stuff that they don't really need. And, just a lot of waste in administrative buildings and personnel that overseeing things, and just want to give the money to the teachers, let them teach and get out of their way. And it's going to save us a lot of money. We're going to have a far better educational system. So I'm sitting there and I'm giving my talking points, how K through 8, we're spending 3 times as much as we are in public school than they are in private school. It's double for high school, public school versus private school, and we need to cut spending. It's just we're spending way too much. We got to cut it. Obviously, the Democrat went the complete opposite direction, and we're saying things like we need to fully fund the schools, as if they weren't getting enough money as it is.
Yeah, I never understood what that meant. What does fully funded mean?
It's just the talking point to make it sound like the there's been money budgeted but not spent because they don't have it. Make it sound like they need X amount of dollars, but they only got 85% of that, or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and then the Republican comes out and he goes, "Yes, we're spending money." He gives some specific examples of how we're wasting money in public schools, and says, "And I'm going to spend X million of dollars more." And I was just like, "No, we don't need to spend more money." And that was that's the key wedge thing between what. I see what a lot of Republican legislators, lawmakers, and elected officials do is they fall into that trap where, yes, there's wasted spending, but I'm also going to try to earn some Democrat votes by also increasing spending. I think, hi, Scott.
Do you guys know each other?
Yes, he's a libertarian. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, but yes, we met at the convention and stuff like that a couple of years ago.
All right. And I agree with a lot of the ideals of the Libertarian Party. I just wish the Libertarians would join the Republicans and build a faction, build coalitions within there and help steer the Republican Party. I'm all about getting some of the things you want done versus nothing. And I think there's way too many, and you don't seem that way, but there's a lot of people where perfection or bust.
Oh, yes.
And that's not realistic.
There's a lot of them in the Libertarian Party as well, is that they dig in and they don't compromise. And you do need to compromise. It's often, what's that old phrase? Politics is the art of compromise. And you're going to have to. I have my ideals, but at the same time, I know that I can't just, stand against the tide. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And that's where I'm hoping. I'm hoping that 4 or 5% right now just sees the benefit of Okay, there's a few things in there that President Trump has done that he's done well. You know what's going to happen if Joe Biden takes over. First of all, I don't know when the Democrats became the war party. It's like they want to get into a shooting war with frickin' Russia. I don't understand it. That was just, it's like, when did they become the war hawks?
Yeah, that's bizarre. That they did an about face in the last 10 years or so. I'm convinced that it's at this point in time, it's anything Trump does, we're going to do the opposite. They have to be opposed to everything he does. It doesn't matter what it is. He avoided war with North Korea, and there Biden's on the debate stage saying I would have been tough on him, and basically he said he would have started a war with North Korea, and I just can't get behind that.
Yeah, I always said that Donald Trump could say that oxygen is the cure for COVID-19, and they would immediately hold their breath.
Yeah, I could see a lot of that happening.
Yeah, so no, it's exciting. I hope. I mean, you've got a couple days to change your mind here. I think. I look at, first of all, the courts are our last refuge right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know what they're going to do to the court system, because they showed what they were going to do. And was it in Washington, D.C., that the circuit court there, they added more judges there?
Did they?
Yeah, this was back in with Obama. That was when Harry Reid got rid of the filibuster.
Okay, you know what? I think I do remember that now. Yeah, the D.C. court area, right? Yep.
They literally packed the court. So they have a history of doing this. They keep saying Trump is packing the court. No, he's doing what he's constitutionally allowed to do.
Yes.
And
his term doesn't end until January 20th. If there's an open seat, and they agreed, I forget how long ago that was, that they were going to keep it at 9 justices, that if there's a vacancy, you're certainly allowed to fill it, whether you like that or not.
And especially if it's the same party.
Yeah. He's got this. Republicans have the Senate. They have the presidency. They can put a candidate through, and it's not unconstitutional for them to do that. Not at all.
Yeah. So I like her. So I think even the courts are worth the price of admission. But I just want to keep Pelosi from the reins of power. I want to keep Kamala Harris from the reins of power, and obligated to do. That's true. He was obligated. It's his job. It says it in the Constitution to fill. And now they always bring up Barack Obama and when Scalia died. And I've got to give Mitch McConnell credit. I don't know when he finally grew a pair, but man, he is, with withholding based on precedent, because there were opposing parties. Mm-hmm. He didn't seat a Supreme Court justice. He didn't even have a hearing. I argue he should have had the hearing, and they should have voted what's his name down. Gardner.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, or yeah, whatever his name was. But I thought I wrote an article this. I thought they should have voted him down, and or whatever, just to keep the procedures going or whatever. But nonetheless, and it was a gamble, because if Hillary Clinton won, who do you think Hillary Clinton's going to appoint?
Yeah.
And that's what I always say. Do you want Joe Biden? Well, I'm sorry. Do you want Kamala Harris to be making Supreme Court picks?
I was gonna bring that up. You beat me to it. That I don't think Joe Biden's gonna finish even his first year as presidency if he wins the election. I just can't see it happening. Following his
Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi's already made it clear that he might not last a week.
Yeah, I saw her getting her ducks in a row to exercise. I always get the numbers. I'm really bad at that. 28th?
No, 25th.
25th Amendment. Yeah, getting that ready to go. But also, just you look at his workload he has on the campaign trail, it's non-existent. I mean, he took 5 days off to prepare for that debate, and he still stumbled. I don't know if you've been paying attention to all that. Yeah, he put a lid on the press on Sunday. And he didn't have any public appearances from Sunday until the debate, where Trump was out. I forget how many stops he had, but it's you can't put in. You have to put in that much rest for an hour and a half worth of work. I can't see him doing the job for very long. I don't think he's got it in him.
My recommendation for you, I don't know. Did you hear the speech that Donald Trump gave at Mount Rushmore?
Sound bites. I didn't hear the whole thing.
No, go back on YouTube. That's your homework. Watch the speech. It's like 25 minutes,
Okay.
but it wasn't just him reading a speech. Look at it. Look at his body language. Look at everything. He believes this.
hmm
And that's when I said Donald Trump is doubling down on America. It's not about, changing their heritage, but about living up to your heritage, things like that, that was the moment. I mean, I didn't always support him. I was actually in 2016, actually 2015. I was none of the above. I was like, oh my God, this is the best we can come up with. And I actually thought that Donald Trump was just doing it for publicity at the time. I didn't want Scott Walker. I didn't want Marco Rubio from the Gang of Eight. I didn't want any of them. I was like, let's run Romney again. That's how bad I was like, yeah, I wasn't even sure. I was like, not excited, but then I started seeing it, and Trump started growing on me there at the end. And then I was like, he might actually be serious. And then I started noticing a trend. Because I remember I had this conversation with Bob Donnell from the Conservative Digest.
hmm
Bob Donnell was supporting Kasich because, according to the polls, he was the only one that could beat Hillary. And I was saying, I go, look at the poll numbers. Every single primary, even whether Trump won or lost, his polling numbers were always about 7-8 points ahead of where the polls were.
hmm
So if the poll said 30%, he was at 36, 37, 38%. And it was consistent. I was like, they're underpolling him. And I think a lot of people were afraid to admit that they were voting for Trump.
I think that's still true. One of the key
Yeah.
indicators that I heard recently, and I started to actually I'm this much of a political nerd. I'll actually read the actual surveys, like the actual questions line by line, and what these polling surveys actually ask. And one of the most interesting questions I thought that I don't think they'd asked, and at least not they've never asked me this question whenever I've gotten a poll. They're starting to do now to kind of offset that number. Is they ask, who do you think your neighbors are voting for? And one of the most recent ones in Wisconsin, it was like 43% said they think their neighbors are voting for Trump, and 26% said they think they're voting for Biden.
Yep.
That was a really interesting number that I thought is more telling of, yeah, people are afraid to say I'm voting for Trump, but they're not afraid to say, yeah, I know what my neighbors' political views are.
Well, and there's I forgot the name of the pollster, but they had him on. His poll was the only one that predicted Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Interesting.
And that was based on that methodology.
Yeah, I believe it. If that's what is the case, then I think that's right. I thought I think there's a few more states in there that he had right. If we're thinking of the same poll.
Like I think it was North Carolina, Florida, Ohio. I mean, it might have been those, even Arizona. See, I'm shocked about Arizona, but it's got to be all those people that moved there from California. Yeah, that's the guy. Trafalgar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That's them. So that's Jessica. I love her. So she's awesome. And we still have to get together, by the way. So, but it's very telling. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like you who are on the fence. You're just mulling it over. And I just look, I'd rather have, I think the Democrat Party has taken such an ideological swing that it, like I said, this is not Bill Clinton's Democrat Party even. No. And Bill Clinton, historically, regardless of what you think of him personally, there's a lot of questions about this whole Weinstein stuff, and then the idiot with the island. He'll go down in history as more moderate.
Clinton, yeah.
Just he was a pragmatist.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he also did compromise with the Republicans to get some deficit spending reductions and stuff like that.
Yep. And welfare reform and
yeah, I think it was not 96. It was before. I think it was after the midterms of his first term. I think, if my memory is correct. But he did compromise and did reduce spending. He was one of the few Democrats that actually did try to reel it back a little bit.
Yep, that was because he got in 1994. That was when the Gingrich wave came in.
Yes, it was 94. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep, and that was even John Kasich came in on that wave, and John Kasich as a congressman was actually a fiscal hawk. and I don't know what happened to him. He got weird there. And that, I think what happens is Washington just it jades somebody because they're surrounded by all that power, and all of a sudden they become part of the aristocracy. And and I call it's like the oligarchy. They have, do you know who I am attitude. They no longer go there to serve.
Well, I think there's also a lot of pressure amongst other members of Congress and everything else to kind of fall in line and play the game once they're there and they're away from their constituents. That they kind of start, they're get surrounded by people who've already been corrupted by power and get pressured into, you play the game, you got to follow the rules. We're getting back to like it's this person's turn. You get in line, wait your turn.
I am so sick of that. And that immediately after Trump wins or whatever, they're going to all jockey. Oh, I'm going to run. We're going to have the same ones. I'm sure even Mitt Romney will run. He's arrogant enough to do it.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? But
maybe he can try. I don't know how far he's going to get.
Yeah, Jeb Bush is there, and if the Democrats lose, I wouldn't be surprised to see Al Gore running in 2024 because they have no bench.
I suppose. I think they're going to have. I don't think they're going to. They could. They can always pull out an old favorite, an old safe candidate. But I can see a lot of the Democrat Party, like we're talking about. Your concerns about how they're getting so extreme, so big government that it's kind of lost its way and are not even willing to compromise and take over everything. That I would imagine that you're going to get an outsider that's even more so in the tank for that sort of thing than you are going to get somebody like an Al Gore who is a more safe and can play to the moderates. I mean, just think about, Biden really stayed in the race and he won because he was not Bernie Sanders. That was a lot of what they had. And I think if they don't have somebody like that, they're going to get back to voting for those, more extreme candidates.
Yeah, they had nobody who could win. And even you look at Kamala Harris, and I think that was a huge mistake on the Biden's part. Kamala didn't even make it to the primaries. She fizzled so quickly, and that's because she's abrasive, arrogant. She's smug. I'm talking. Okay. It's like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Just this attitude. I thought Mike Pence did okay in the debate. He's a more stoic individual by nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's more very straightforward. Giving the facts. He could put on a little more personality when he speaks. I would say he's a little dry. for a political junkie like me who wants to hear about all the what's the facts and figures and what's the the dirty details, that I found what he was saying interesting. But I'm sure a lot of average voters kind of he's a little too much data. Unless I'd like some more storytelling, if you will.
Yeah, and that's I don't need to be educated on things, so to speak, but they need to start talking to, and that's what they say. President Trump's campaign in 2016 was effectively at the 4th grade level.
Yes.
And it was simple. Make America great again. Mm-hmm. Of course, the liberals took it as, oh, he wants slavery again. No, that has nothing to do with it. Stop the hyperbole. It's bullcrap. Mm-hmm. And, they keep saying he won't disavow the KKK and white supremacy. It's like, wait a minute. Remember the Reform Party years ago? That was that would have been 1996 when Ross Perot created the Reform Party. He was running again. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump joined the party, and he was actually thinking of running back then. And he wanted to run as a reform candidate or whatever. And he ended up backing out.
Yeah, he left the party completely.
Yeah, because David Duke. Mm-hmm. And he said that was specifically the reason, because David Duke was a big wig in that whole movement, and he didn't want to be a part of it. Yep. And David Duke, obviously, connections to the KKK.
I just saw an interview recently. Yeah.
I can't believe they always interview him because actually I don't even think they're supporting Trump. They're supporting Biden. Well, Biden liked his old confidant. What's that? Larry Bird. Not Larry Bird.
Yes.
Robert Byrd.
Yes. Yeah. Larry Bird's a
Larry Bird
basketball
played
player.
basketball. Robert Byrd, they referred to him as Sheets in the Senate because he's the former KKK Grand
Yeah,
Wizard in
yep.
West Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, clever.
Yeah, but I think they made a big mistake with Kamala, and that was just, and the thing about it. Oh, I'm going to appoint a black woman. They say race shouldn't matter, color shouldn't matter, and he specifically selected somebody because of their gender and their color.
Mhm.
And she's even, she's half Indian and her father's Jamaican. Whatever. I don't really care. And of course, you got some of the other point of view. Oh, she's not eligible to be president. It's like, oh, come on, enough with that. She was born here, but her mother was not a U.S. citizen at the time. It's like she was born here.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's not if your parents are citizens. If you're a citizen, you were born here.
Yeah, they keep going to. I think it's Old English common law that your parents have to be born there as well.
That's like great for England. We're not in England.
Yeah, but they think that's what the Constitution was based off of, and it's like
I've heard those legal arguments. I heard a lot of it's even still occasionally referenced in the Supreme Court. You'll see a justice bring up an old British law that predates the Constitution because they can't find anything else that justifies their point. And that's what I always say. That's great for England, but we're not in England. We're in the United States.
Yeah, basically, if you can't find it in the law, then it goes back to the states. That's what the 10th Amendment is for. And they even had, what's his name? Ted Cruz. They were asking him years ago when he was running for president. They asked him the question, "Do you believe in gay marriage?" And that's when he said it was wrong for the Supreme Court to make that decision. He goes, that should have been back at the states. And he said it's not a national issue. It's a state issue. That's what he kept saying. Well, I think they could have solved that a long time ago by either making everything a domestic partnership, including man and woman, into law, or just forget it. Get them out. Get the marriage out. I think getting marriage out of government you shouldn't have to have a license, and you shouldn't have to, like my ex-wife and I, very amicable divorce. We still had to go through all the bull crap.
Yep.
I mean, we literally went.
I was divorced too, and it was I had described going through the divorce process in the courts as more of a dissolving a business partnership than it was solving a relationship, because all they cared about was your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. It's what it boils down to. All the government cares about is who's taking what, because they want to know who to tax who for what when it's over.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are the types of things. That's where we need. When I say we need less government, we need less government. I don't think we should have no government. I'm not an anarchist, but no, I think the government has.
I would agree with that too. Yeah, we have to have some government. I mean, there's always going to be bad actors, and you need to. You need to spell it out. Right now, you have the written rules, the rule of law, as they like to say, the written rules that we all agree to abide by to have a civil society.
Well, right now the Democrat Party they've gotten very, very scary. And I'm not just saying that just to say it's not hyperbole. They are true believers in their agenda and their ideology. I mean, look at this. I'm going to put this up. This is Robert Reich. He was a former administrator or former cabinet member of Bill Clinton. And he said, when this nightmare is over, we need a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. It would erase Trump's lies, comfort those who have been harmed by his hatefulness, and name every official, politician, executive, and media mogul whose greed and cowardice enabled this catastrophe, referring to Donald Trump. Seriously. This is what they're thinking. This is 1984. This is going to be the truth police. They're going to have a Department of Truth or something like that. It's just so. And I always talk about this: to control what people think, you begin with controlling what they say, and that's scary stuff. That's what we're up against.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with you there that there's a lot of efforts to control what people say, control what people think, marginalize dissenting opinions, and there is a lot of those issues. We definitely do agree on that needs to be something people fight against is that you're allowed to have an opinion even if the majority of people don't agree with you. That's that's one of the reasons why we have so many things that are in our system of government that check against what's called the tyranny of the majority. If 50% plus one disagree with the other, they just smash their opinion through. We can't have that.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I think sad to say that Queens, New York, loudmouth billionaire playboy is the only thing standing between us and that. And that's, Second Amendment will be curtailed. They cannot get rid of it because they would require a constitutional amendment, and that's just not going to happen. I don't think the Constitution will ever get amended again because it's so divisive right now. And on anything,
not anytime soon. I can see them going after a lot of different things just to make it. They have gotten gun legislation has been passed in the past. They've gotten it done. So I could certainly see them doing it again. And there's ways they can get around it, making laws. They do that with federal regulations all the time, reclassifying what guns or what classes, so that makes what civilians can or cannot own. So that happens all the time, and that could very well circumvent the law by issuing regulations and changing what the ATF considers a legal firearm and things like that. That is under discretion in the law.
They're already going through that right now, where they declared a specific AR-15 pistol. The ATF just declared it
a rifle, I think. Yeah.
Yep, as an SBR, or short-barreled rifle, and the people who did it, they're actually Obama holdovers. And that's the one mistake. And I think it's a mistake, but then again, there's times when I don't think it was a mistake. He kept way too many Obama people into bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, he needed to see what they were doing before he could do anything about it.
And we've made the mistake in the past, that this is my personal experience, that they did a lot of that mistake of clearing out too many people when we invaded Iraq and toppled their government, and they kicked everybody who was a member of the Ba'ath Party out. And it was a one-party country. You had to be a member of that party, whether you believed in it or not, to get in. And they basically kicked all anybody who had any ability to competently govern their country out, and it was a disaster. So even though you have these people that don't agree with you, or maybe actively working against you, there's still going to be some advantage than having people who don't know what they're doing. So and I hear a lot of people go to that as well. Trump's got more gun regulations passed than Obama ever did, and that's one of the first ones they reference right now. And getting bump stocks banned is another one. And so, as far as when you want to go back to like the big tent things like that, that's the kind of things that make libertarians and more other type limited government people hesitate and really have that holdover, is that there's still those it's still happening. It may be a little bit less, and in all honesty, I couldn't care whether bump stocks existed at all or not. I think they're stupid.
I don't have one.
Yeah, I think they're dumb. So it didn't no skin off my back, but it was at the same time I can also appreciate some people see that it's a precedent that's set. Just to give you a few examples of what sticks in the craw of many other limited government types.
Right. Yeah, but they also have to recognize that Trump may be very affluent, but he's also a simple guy. He's not overly articulate in as let's say a statesman standard. Mm-hmm. He tells it like it is, and I think that's why people appreciate that part of it. But he doesn't have the finesse of a Ronald Reagan or someone that can talk well. And I think when it comes to something like that, bump stock, that sounds bad. Okay, let's get rid of it. Whatever in that respect. But I don't think he's overtly trying to do anything to ban guns. You know that the other side is going to do more harm than good. Look at Virginia. Mm-hmm. Look what those Democrats did with that power. They're limiting how many guns you can buy in a month and all that stuff. And then to say nothing about their abortion stances. I still think Virginia is going to swing this election.
I was thinking that, and I'm not so sure. I'm not as confident as you are. I can see it happening, but Virginia is so close to DC, and I think there's just so much bleed over from people living in Virginia, that I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a close race there, though. It's going to be really close.
Oh yeah, there's other things that'll happen if the Democrats win.
Yeah.
Because obviously in Wisconsin, we can affect the House, but we can't affect the Senate because we don't have a Senate candidate this year. But, if the Democrats win and we don't have the presidency or whatever, statehood for Puerto Rico and statehood for Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. went it was like 80-20 Democrat. So you know why the Democrats want statehood. Two more senators there.
Yep.
And then 2 more senators in Puerto Rico. So that's former senators. They're trying to stack the Senate as well as the Supreme Court. So all that stuff's going to happen. We can't let them anywhere near the reins of power. It just can't. I mean, obviously, we got Jim Sensenbrenner seat up and Fitzgerald is running. I was not happy that they cleared the field for him.
He's I haven't met him, but as far as I can seen his campaign, he seems like he's got a lot of support. But I think the 5th is just. I mean, look at Sensenbrenner's victory record. He wins by landslide victories every time. It's just that.
Oh right, and I think Fitz will probably win with the 52-53%. I don't think it'll be a 60-some% win because Sensenbrenner also had 40 years of name recognition.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was well liked, and he was very good at the town halls and all that stuff that kept him, in a positive light in his district. But it's also just a very conservative district. But I just think, and I don't live in the 5th. I actually live a block into the 4th. I think it is.
Oh my God! Yeah. You've got Gwen Moore. You have your own problems.
Right? Yep.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's like, and that's a reason for term limits. Gwen Moore and Jim Sensenbrenner, they both were there way too long.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of guys, a lot of people in both the House and the Senate across the nation that probably need to, they're past their prime and need to clear the way for some fresh people, some fresh ideas, and I like to see that a lot. And that's kind of what disappointed me with the Fitzgerald is he just seems like the heir apparent, like we just talked about. He's the chosen one. He's the head of the state Senate. Of course he's going to go to Congress. It's
right. And I don't like that portion of it. I supported his opponent in the primary. Yeah, I'm going to vote for him now because the guy who's running against is a complete crackpot. Pryorozek or whatever his name was. I don't know, but
yeah, I forgot to pronounce his
name. Or something. Yeah, he's a complete crackpot, and I don't want them in here. So once again, it's lesser of evils, and I mean he's going to be a backbencher anyway, so it's really not going to matter in the scheme of things. He'll be a reliable vote. At least he won't support Nancy Pelosi. So that's what I look at right now. I'm thinking of all that. So I just and I hope I respect everybody's decision to make whatever decision they're going to make, but I'm just hoping. And I think there's more never Trumpers that have converted to Trump based on the fact that they didn't expect him to do all the stuff he promised.
No, he didn't. I know people who are like that. Have already told me that. Yeah, I voted for. I know people who voted for Gary Johnson that have now voted for Trump this year. I wish he wrote in some joke candidate, and now I'm blanking on the name, but we're just talking to the guy last week or a week before, and he wrote in some like cartoon character instead of voting for Trump. I'm voting for Trump this time because I didn't believe he was really the candidate he said he was. So I can see that happening. That he's won some people over in the 4 years, but actually following through with a lot of what he said he was going to do that people didn't believe.
Right. And I just look at the courts, and then just imagine who Hillary Clinton would have picked.
Yeah.
So
I think the Republicans are doing better at picking justices than the Democrats are, and I think it goes back to picking judges that vote on what the law is and how the legislature wrote the law, what they intended, not what the justices want the law to be or what they think it should be.
Oh, I get so mad. I was going through my Facebook feed. Now we can get rid of Roe v. Wade. It's like,
that's not going to happen.
Slow down. First of all, it's like, so people on the Republican side purport to be constitutional conservatives, but yet they want their Supreme Court pick to prejudge a law before there's even a case in front of them.
Yeah.
It's like it bothers the hell out of me. So, and obviously it's not going to go. I mean, I think the best we can hope for sending it back to the states, if that ever happens.
If that ever happens, Roe v. Wade would have to be overturned. I just don't see. I mean, one of the things it's not only not even getting to the merits of Roe versus Wade, because I actually did study that in grad school as well, and there's definitely some flaws in that case that it could be overturned. There was actually some false information that was used to rule that case that would most likely have changed the outcome had the truth been known at the time. But just for the simple fact that I don't think we're going to have a legitimate plaintiff in the case to take it all the way to the Supreme Court again anytime soon. I just don't think it's going to get overturned.
Yeah, it'll be years, if anything. So let's focus on what we can accomplish right now. And I think right now, got to continue another 4 years of Trump. And I just hope these investigations finally start yielding some punishment for these people, what they did in 2016 and all that stuff. That I'm sorry that there's got to be punishment, but I do not agree. I will not support. Even if Barack Obama is implicated, I do not support sending him to prison or anything like that. I think it's bad for the country to do that. I think they need to embarrass the hell out of him, and then the public opinion will sink to the lowest of lows, and that'll hurt him more than anything. But I don't know.
I think that's an interesting statement. Why do you? I'm going to have to ask you to expand on that. I'm curious. Why do you think it's not a good idea to put somebody in prison who's committed a major crime?
I just think former leader, or prosecute him and then pardon him or something. But I think putting him in prison and stuff like that, with the country as divided as it is just not going to help things. I just don't think. I don't think it's good for the country.
You would think it would add fuel to the fire for his side? Is that really where you're going with that? Okay, and
fuel to the fire, but also fuel to the divisiveness. It's like, and then, I mean, come on, let's look at. Okay, you impeached Bill Clinton, so we're going to impeach Donald Trump. That kind of. It's a tit for tat, and then they're going to do it to one of our guys, and back and forth, and it just creates a bad precedent.
Yeah, I mean, I can get it's just making things worse, but at the same time, now it all depends on the merits of the case. But just the other side of the argument there, I would say, before I'd be able to, I'm not making an opinion either way on this. Just so we're clear, I would be indecisive on that. I would have to see how everything plays out before I'd be able to offer an opinion on something like that. But I think if somebody's breaking the law and they are one of our elected leaders, one of our presidents, I think that shouldn't exempt them from prison time. In fact, that should be a better example, to make an example of somebody like that, trying to help end what seems like endless corruption at the top levels of our government.
I think we start
risk, because that just tells everybody else that comes after him, like, oh, whatever, I'll get a slap on the wrist. I'll get convicted, but then I'll get pardoned and nothing will occur. But I almost would be concerned that it would encourage more corruption.
I don't know. Well, I think people in government are not exempt. I just think taking out the prior leader of the country like that, it bothers me. It bothers me like that. Had he been caught on camera murdering someone, shooting him in the head or something, yeah, that'd be different. But I don't know. But he can go after Comey. He can go after Hillary Clinton's fair game. She's not an elected official.
Yeah.
And people like that. But I think there's going to be a lot of people low level that are going to take a fall. But I think they need to start prosecuting. I'm so mad at Bill Barr waiting till after the election. If it's that important, you got to out with it. The American people need to know.
Yeah.
You're taking away a decision point for a lot of people. And I'm saying, okay, if there was nothing there, clearly he would have been out with it.
Yeah. And I just got to wonder how much of that is, well, I don't know who my boss is going to be in a few months, so I better hedge my bets too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just dumb. But, oh well, people be people. All right, Rick. Well, thank you for joining me. I didn't realize it's like an hour and 20 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Time flew by. I just looked up at it 2 minutes ago, and I couldn't believe that we'd been over an hour already. And I see
Yep.
people commenting. I'm like, people are still listening to us.
Yeah, people are still on there, and obviously
Right.
a lot of people will circle back and watch it
Sure.
on the rebroadcast and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's always a good conversation. I like getting challenged. I like challenging.
Mhm.
I'd love to see what you ended up. I can't wait to find out what you ended up doing on election day. So
What are you going to be at the victory party on Tuesday?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be at one of them. I don't know. There's going to be one at like Radisson and Mayfair. There's going to be obviously the one at I think it's the Ingalls side, the big one.
Whichever one Bonnie's hosting, I'm going to be because I helped Bonnie. I was supporting Bonnie.
Aliotos.
Yes, that's the one I'm going to.
Yeah. I hope she gets in there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
So if you stop by there, I'll tell you.
yeah, I'll be there. But think long and hard. I just the risk of it. I just hope. I'm just like we need every vote we can get right now. And I'm
Yep.
all about making a statement. I've done it. I've been there, man.
Mm-hmm. No, it's something I don't want to get too into the weeds, and we like I said go for hours, and I'd be happy to come on again and talk about some of the other topics after the election and see what's going on, and because there's a lot more things I was hoping to cover tonight too, but again there's some hesitations I have. I mean his debate performance in the first one was really off-putting for me, and
Yeah, I'm wondering if he was
that's-
actually sick.
I don't
that
know what his deal was, but it was just more of the I don't want to see a bully president, and I don't want to see somebody because that gives me pause as far as like the that non-interventionist, like I don't want a president who's starting fights, that sort of thing. That doesn't
But
that doesn't give me a good warm and fuzzy feeling that this is going to be a good guy to have his finger on the button, if you will, sort of
yeah,
thing.
but you can't tell me that surprised you.
No.
See, that's the whole point. The biggest thing I respect about him, actually the same thing I respect about a Bernie Sanders or someone like that. You know where the guy stands. And he's not changing himself to please anybody. He's like, this is me, take it or leave it. And it's like when he won the election and he was inaugurated, he's president. Oh my God, President Trump is tweeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been doing it all along.
Yeah.
Did you expect it to change?
Yeah, it's those kind of things where again, it's a lot of that. There's times where I want to get behind him, and I can appreciate what he's did. I thought he did very well in the second debate, but I liked a lot what he said, especially things like when they were debating, going back to it. I know I said this already tonight, but the North Korea thing, he said, there's no war. Like he solved that problem diplomatically, and that's something I certainly can appreciate. And I don't think it's been used as much lately, by many past presidents regardless of party. I mean, you look back how many presidents we've had, every single one of them in recent memories been involved in starting some sort of conflict.
Yeah, and he hasn't started any.
No.
So, and then the peace accords too, though, with getting all these Arab nations to recognize Israel, those are huge.
Yes, getting all those countries on board that have been, warring. There's still a long way to go, and I can hear some of the arguments, like any of my libertarian friends that hammer on Trump about some of his record. I can hear what they're saying if they're watching me right now, and I agree with them. But it's at least he's kind of finally going in the right direction. It's a snail's pace, but
it's going to take years, probably generation, to really change direction of these things.
Yes, I would agree.
It's not overnight kind of thing.
And when I was in the military, my battalion commander often would talk about the enemy's fighting a generational war. They're fighting 100 years war. It's not about, they're not trying to win today. They're trying to they're willing to wait 100 years from now. And so you do need to kind of keep that in mind with your strategy, is that you're not going to end this today. It's going to take a long time because they're in it for the long haul too. And you're not the only one who gets to say when it's over. Your enemy gets to decide when the war is over too. So it's going to be a long ways away.
It's kind of like the Democrats. You know, they've been doing this over 100 years. You know, so liberalism, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the liberals, the progressives. All right. Well, Rick, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And yep, we'll definitely talk again. I'll see you on election night.
Awesome. See you then.
I hope you have music for my ears. All right. I'm not going to give up, but I'm not trying to be too pushy, but it's like, there's a lot of things to consider, and I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you. See you Tuesday.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thank you, man. All right, folks, that was Rick Braun. Thank you for joining me. And sorry I didn't get involved with a lot of your comments tonight. Having a great discussion, but another reason is I would have to keep looking down. I have my computer down here. I don't have my normal stand where I can have my comments up at eye level, so I didn't want to look like that. So, but anyway, guys, I will be on. I am looking. A friend of mine is working on helping me get a very, very significant guest on my show for Thursday night this week. A gentleman by the name of Terrence Williams. So we will see. We're working on it. And he's well known. Look him up. And he has those that YouTube channel that was. He's the guy that will watch the Democrats crying about something. He's eating popcorn while enjoying, that kind of thing. So a lot of fun. He's been going through a lot of hell because he's a black conservative. And obviously, if there's a black conservative, they get a lot of hell from the liberals and whatever. And it's just bad. So, and anyway, I will see you guys soon. I will let you know about Thursday night, but I know I'll be back on Wednesday night. So have an awesome night. We will talk soon. And obviously drop me a line. Let me know if there's any other topics you want me to cover and everything like that. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye.